Yo, what is going on everybody? Shri Kanase here. So the fastest product testing strategy using Google Shopping ads. There has been an increased amount of demand for Google Shopping ad videos, and mainly because a lot of people are finding that they're facing issues with Facebook ads such as higher CPMs, higher cost per purchases, banned ad accounts, and this is just causing them to come on over to Google Ads. And if you're one of those people who has never used Google Shopping ads or just the Google Ads platform in general, this may be the year you may want to consider switching over to Google Ads or simply using Google Ads as another platform to add traffic. And that's simply because the overall cost of using Facebook ads has increased significantly. But just having an interest in Google Ads is not enough. You need to know how to use them properly so that you don't end up wasting money. Because I don't know about you, but I love my money and I want more of it inside my pockets. But how do you test the products correctly and how do you test them fast? Because one thing you will realize by the end of this video is that speed is everything with Google Shopping ads. But without wasting any more time, let's just jump right into it. So the Google Shopping ads product testing strategy. The first thing you would definitely want to do if you really want to find success with this specific testing strategy is to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. No, but I would definitely really appreciate that. But the real first thing that I would like to start this video off with is talking about the bids and overall structure of the Google Shopping campaigns that we start with this strategy. So when it comes to the specific bids, and this is one of the most frequently asked questions, which is how do you determine the bid or what should the bid be? Well, to answer that question, the bid should be determined by the average cost of your products or basically the average profits per product that you are getting. And this simply means that the lower the cost of the products on your store, the lower the bid, and the higher the cost, the higher the bid. Now let's just take one example here. Let's say, for example, that you own a Shopify store where you sell products from AliExpress which are worth over $1,000 each. What that means is that your bid should not be 10 cents or 20 cents, because if your average cost of the product on your store is above $1,000, that means your competition is also selling products that cost above $1,000, which means they're bidding very, very high. So if you bid 10 cents, 20 cents, you would not be ranking for those auctions, which means your product would just stay on your Shopify store and not sell at all. So in order to prevent that from happening, you need to make a competitive bid. And in this case, it may be a bid of 80 cents to $1, maybe $1.50. There's a little bit of more research required in that. And I'm not going to be going over the specific research methods here, but I'm just going to be telling you guys how I determine it myself in the later portion of the video. But basically understand right now that the bid is basically determined by the average cost or profit of the products on your Shopify store. And this brings me to my next point, which is talking about the budgets. How should you budget your campaigns? Well, a general rule of thumb I like to use for all of my new Shopify stores is that I like to start the budget at a minimum of $25 per day. It doesn't matter whether the new Shopify store has 10 products or 100. I usually start it at $25 a day and go from there. But there's an exception to this. If you're starting a brand new Shopify store and you already have a product list of over 1,000 products, maybe I would increase this up to $50 or $100, because a $25 per day budget could take up to a whole year just to test every single product inside that list of 1,000. So in order to prevent that much time from being wasted, you may want to increase the budget so that you can test a little bit faster. And there's no negative point to this besides the fact that you may run out of your budget much quicker if you are on a low budget. So you want to keep this in mind. But generally, if you're just starting out with maybe one product, 2 products, 10 products, start it at a minimum of $25 per day. I usually don't recommend anything below that, because in that case, Google will take forever to optimize. They may not optimize correctly and you may not get the results that you want. And this brings me to the point which I made at the very beginning of this video, which is success with Google equals the speed. What do I mean by this exactly? Well, you want to understand that the more products that you test faster with Google, the higher the chance of you finding those winning products before somebody else and scaling those products. Because remember, with Google Shopping ads, it's really hard to achieve $10,000 or $20,000 days with one single product. You can achieve those numbers, however, with multiple different products. And that is where speed comes into play. We want to find these winning products, these multiple winning products much faster. And in order to do that, we need to be very quick with how we test our old products that are on our store. But in addition, you should be very quick with adding new products as well. So you need speed of adding new products. Because for example, if the 100 products that you already have on your Shopify store do not contain any winning products, then you would need to continuously add new products every single day to continue the process of finding those winning products. And you should do this regardless of whether you have a winner or not. But how fast you add these new products every day, or however much ever times you do it within a week, really makes a big difference. If you want to achieve success faster, you will need to continuously add new products so that you give Google a better chance of finding that winning product based on other criteria. And if you don't know what criteria I'm referring to, go ahead and watch the video that popped up right above my head on the top right of your screen after this video. Or if you want to take it a step further, I do offer one-on-one mentoring. You can message me on Instagram. My Instagram account is @dedicatedyoung, and we can set you up with the one-on-one Google Ads mentoring directly with me. But just know that whatever you do with Google Shopping Ads, speed is everything. But now that we've covered the basics of how the campaign is set up, what you should have in mind before really testing the products, let's go ahead and start with the specific strategy. So the first strategy covers those people who have a budget of less than $500. Now, a key note about this, it is possible definitely to achieve success with Google Shopping Ads below $500. If this video was about Facebook ads, I would not even make a section for those people below who have a budget of less than 500 at this point of time, because with Facebook, you definitely need a budget of above $1,000 or more in today's time and age to really achieve that success that you're looking for. But with the Google Shopping Ads, $500 is sufficient enough to get your first few results so that you can get some money to reinvest back into the business and get an even better result. But how should you be going about with the Google Shopping campaign if you have a budget of less than 500? Well, in this case, you need to create one specific campaign, and this will be the only campaign that is run on your Google Ads account until you find a winning product within this campaign. But until then, you will only run this one general testing campaign. And this general testing campaign will again run at a budget of $25 per day, as I mentioned, unless you have more products, of course. But if you're just a beginner, start off with $25 a day. And you want to choose maximize clicks as the bidding strategy. Now, a key note, I do realize that this is for people with a budget of less than $500 a day, and you may be thinking that $25 per day may be too high of a budget. Well, one thing you want to understand, if your Google Ads account is brand new, within the first 2 to 4 weeks of running this campaign, you will barely spend any money, if any at all. And that is because this is called the warming period. In the warming period, Google is just trying to get a clear understanding of what your products are, who to show them to, how to allocate the budget that you have set to all of these products, etc. So within that time period, you may not even spend any money at all. So don't worry about spending through your budget. The $25 per day mark will start getting hit after about 3 to 4 weeks into the campaign. But until then, definitely continue adding products. But for the bidding strategy, again, as I mentioned, it should be maximize clicks. This is one of the biggest changes you need to make besides the budget. The third change you need to make is the CPC, or the cost per link click that you want to bid. Even though at the beginning I said that I determined the cost per link click based on the product cost or the profits per product sold, I do have a special way of calculating what it should be. So the special way is the following. So let's say, for example, on a specific store, I have 5 products. Product number 1 gives me a profit of $20 after all expenses, meaning I get the product on AliExpress for $20 and I sell it for $40. That leaves me with a profit margin of $20. Product number 2 gives me a profit of $10. Number 3 gives me $45. Number 4 gives me $30. And number 5 gives me $25. Now, this is just a hypothetical situation, but based on these 5 products, I would determine the CPC in the following way. So what I would do is I would add all of the margins, meaning I would add 20 plus 10 plus 45 plus 30 plus 25, and then I would divide it by the number of products I have. So whatever the total is from these numbers divided by 5, and that would give me the average cost per link click that I want to set as my bidding strategy. So in this case, that would give me about 26 cents. So in this specific situation, what I would do is for the bid limit, I would set it anywhere from between 26 cents to 50 cents. 26 meaning you're on the lower end, you have a very conservative budget, and 50 cents meaning you're close to the $500 target and you don't have an issue with going through your budget much quicker and getting results much faster. And I came up with the number 50 cents by just adding about 25 cents to the first number. And I do this often for the other budgets that I will be mentioning very shortly, but this kind of gives you the general idea of where you want your bid to be, and having a specific bid within this range will definitely give you a competitive advantage over the other competitors and also make it much easier for you to get sales. And these several things are the specific ones that you definitely have to change when setting up your general testing campaign in order to get the best bang out of your buck. But after about 3 to 5 weeks of running the campaign, you'll start to see that you're getting some results. Maybe you're getting impressions, clicks, maybe you even got sales. But after about 1 to 2 months of running the campaign, what you will need to start doing is you will need to start excluding the products. You will need to start excluding the keywords, because that is the best way to optimize the campaign and make sure that you're not spending money unnecessarily. So if your budget is less than $500, here's what I recommend. For excluding products, you should exclude all those products which cross 100 clicks but get you 0 sales. Now, depending on the average cost per link click that you're currently getting, you may notice that you have spent only $10 for a specific product and it got you 100 clicks. Even though it spent only $10, you still want to exclude that because it crossed 100 clicks and it got you 0 sales. For excluding keywords, you want to exclude the specific keyword if it spent over $10 but got you 0 sales. Again, this is a kind of a very aggressive method of excluding the products. This is not what I normally recommend for the other budgets, which I'll be going over very shortly. But for those people who need to save every cent and invest it correctly, this is exactly what I recommend. One testing campaign running at maximized clicks, CPC determined by kind of the average of the profits per product. And if you have a lot of products on your store, this may be kind of hard to do manually. So you may want to kind of just guess the number based on the averages that you have in mind when you were adding the products. But having a range within this will definitely make sure that you get at least some profits or your break even, or maybe even at a slight loss when testing these products. Because remember, when we launch our general testing campaign, our main goal is not to become profitable, but to find our winning product. And that's the whole strategy behind this video, which is how to test your products quickly. This is the best way to test it for a person with a budget of less than 500. But what do you do if you have a higher budget? So now let's start talking about those people who have a budget of greater than 500 but less than 1,000. Now this is where things kind of take an interesting turn. Instead of one general testing campaign for this segment, I recommend that you have 2 testing campaigns. Now, what do I mean by this exactly? Well, for campaign number 1, you want to kind of follow the same method which I was mentioning above. You want it to be run at maximized clicks, and you want the CPC to be determined by the product's average profit margins. But in this case, instead of just having it at the bare minimum or increasing it by 25 cents, we do something different. So let's take the same numbers that we went over above into consideration. But this time, what we would do is, instead of having a CPC bid limit of about 26 cents to 50 cents, we would rather have it at 56 cents to 80 cents. And the main thing I did here is I just added about 30 cents to 50 cents to my overall profit. So 30 cents added to the minimum number of 26 cents and 50 cents added to the second number over here. And I didn't take it all the way to a $1 because that would make it extremely expensive. We want it to be slightly less than $1. So unless you're really close to the $1,000 mark, I would leave it at around 80 cents. One key thing about this, a lot of other people believe that it is best to start off with a low bid and then increase from there. I believe in the opposite. What I believe is that you should start with a much higher bid because you want to get those results fast. You want your campaign to start optimizing fast. Once your campaign starts optimizing within the first week or so, then you can lower the bid. For those people who start with a lower bid, it takes them 3, 4, 5, sometimes even 2 months to just optimize the campaign fully. So that's why I'm recommending these higher bids, so that in the beginning you can at least get a little bit faster data so that you can take actions necessary by looking at the data. But in this case, when it comes to excluding the products and the keywords, you want to exclude the products and keywords if the profit margin of that product is reached but you have 0 sales. Meaning, let's say for example, product number 1 spent $21, product number 2 spent $5, 3 spent 40, 4 spent 10, and 5 spent 0. In this case, we would exclude product number 1 because it spent $21 but it got us 0 sales and our profit margin is 20. So for people in this segment, we don't really look at the clicks, we look at the amount spent. And this is the kind of the better option of testing our products because we want to give Google a little bit more time to optimize. Remember, with Google, it's all a patient-based game. The more you let a product optimize, the more you let Google spend money on a product, the better your chances of finding those products, and also the better the chances of having a product get tested fully. Because this is the only way a product in this segment would get fully tested. So for those people within, again, the $500 to $1,000 range, this is exactly what you should be doing. For campaign 1, you should be starting it in a very similar way as the first one. But what should campaign 2 be like? So campaign number 2, now this is where things are a little bit different. For campaign number 2, you should start this campaign 2 to 4 weeks after you get your first sale on your store. And this first sale should come from campaign number 1. If you are just starting a Google Shopping campaign on your store, you should only run campaign number 1, not campaign number 2. Again, campaign number 2 is started after about 2 to 4 weeks of getting your first sale. And the main goal of this campaign is to basically test all of the products inside campaign number 1, which after such a long time still have not gotten any impressions, any clicks, any sales. What happens with Google is the specific products which are getting the highest amount of monthly searches or the highest amount of traction, or for those products which you are winning auctions for, Google starts to allocate a large portion of your budget and your bid towards those few products. And when that happens, those few products start hoarding all of your Google Ads campaign budget. This means all of the other products inside your campaign are not fully tested. Oftentimes, a lot of the products will remain at 0 impressions and 0 clicks simply because they're just not getting a chance to be shown. So in order to fully test those products and really get the best bang out of your buck, we want to start campaign number 2, and this campaign will be testing all of these other products which are still at 0 impressions at campaign number 1. There's a very simple way to filter out the specific products so that you're only testing those products which have 0 impressions and clicks. If you're at this stage and want more info on that, just comment down below and I'll give you a few resources on how this is done. But as for the setup, you want it to be the same setup as before, that maximize clicks, CPC determined by the product average margins, and you want to follow this specific criteria right over here by adding 30 cents to 50 cents to whatever the average profit margins are. I've personally noticed that launching campaign number 2, leads to a very, very higher result because a lot of the products which are not getting tested and campaign number 1 could potentially turn out to be winning products for you. So campaign number 1 really lets you test them thoroughly, get a better idea of whether they are winners or not. But that brings me to my last category, which is for those people who have a budget of greater than $1,000. Now this is where we go very, very aggressive. We have 3 testing campaigns. Now don't worry, you're not going to be spending $500 each day. In fact, you'll be spending as much as those people in segment number 2 and segment number 1. But the only difference is we'll have a little bit of more testing campaigns. So the first campaign will be very, very similar to what we already covered. It'll be on maximize clicks, CPC average of all profit margin, but this time we would add about 50 cents to the average profit margin to the formula. So if we scroll down, the numbers are the same for the products, but for the specific bid limits, what we would do is we would set them at a bid limit of 65 cents to 90 cents in this case. This is determined by the average profits of these numbers and based on the formula which I went over at the beginning of this video. So if you're kind of confused, again, watch this video several times. But when it comes to excluding products for this specific segment for people with over $1,000 to spend, you want to exclude products and keywords if the profit margin reaches 1 times to 2 times what you were expecting. So in this case, for product number 1, since you were expecting $20, I would maybe let it spend a little bit over $20, maybe even up to $40 to fully test the product. And if it has spent over $40 and it still got you 0 sales, that's when I would exclude the product. And the same goes for the keywords. Exclude the keyword if it has reached over the specific $20 amount in this case, or the $40, and it has got you 0 sales. That's the best way and the right way to fully test your products and make sure that you're not leaving any winners on the table. Because what happens is sometimes some products just take a little bit longer to really start optimizing and getting sales, but once they start getting sales, they're the main winning products. But this is exactly how you should be running campaign number 1. Now let's move on to campaign number 2. So how should you be running campaign number 2? Campaign number 2 will be on maximize clicks, same as before, but in this case we will not be adding the 50 cents, and I'm going to remove this right here. Instead, our cost per link click will actually be only 10 cents. Meaning you would set the max bid limit at 10 cents. Now why do we do this? And why is it so low? Google Ads is sometimes a little bit weird. What happens is sometimes you may not win the auction for certain products inside your main campaign. Meaning even though your bid limit is at 65 to 90 cents, you would not win some of the auction. But sales that were lost within this auction, what happens is sometimes this campaign will catch those sales at a much lower bid. So in essence, what I'm saying is campaign number 2 is kind of a backup campaign and like a retargeting campaign, catching all of those sales which slipped through the auctions of the first campaign. So you'll see that even though your bid is so high, you will not be winning all of the auction, and there are a lot of reasons as to why this happens. One reason could be your budget is not enough or your ad rank is low, etc. But having campaign number 2 kind of minimizes those losses and gets those lost sales at a much lower cost per link click. So I just like to create campaign number 2 right away from the get-go along with campaign number 1. It's not like here where you have to wait 2 to 4 weeks. You can just start campaign number 2 along with campaign number 1 right away, and make sure that the bid limit again is at 10 cents. But for excluding the products and keywords, you want to just exclude them like normal. If it reaches the profit margin but 0 sales, you just exclude. But along with that, we want to have a third campaign, and this campaign is very similar to what I went over earlier, and it starts after about 2 to 4 weeks of getting the first sale. So basically it's the same thing that we just went over in the second segment of people with a budget of less than 1,000 but more than 500. You want to start it after about 2 to 4 weeks of getting your first sale, and you want to test all of the products which you got 0 impressions, 0 clicks, and 0 sales for within this campaign. And again, it should be the same setup as before, but in this case the bid limit should be the changed bid limit of 65 cents to 90 cents. But if you start testing your product based on the budget that you find yourself within, you will see that you're really quickly testing those products and finding those winning products which you can then scale. And if you're not sure as to how to scale, I have a video on my channel which should have popped up in the top right, which will go over the details of scaling your shopping ad campaigns. But this is the general strategy of testing your shopping ad products and testing them with speed and accurately so that you're not wasting any money or leaving any money on the table. But if you found any type of value in this video, smash that like button and smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.